So, I mean, it'd be nice just to open it up to the rest of the group, really, if there's any other sort of comments or kind of questions for Sara about how anything that she's kind of talked about or the actual content that was produced. You can feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or put it in the chat as you like. So maybe in the meantime, I'll just ask Sara, so just to kind of like, yeah, again, just so I've kind of got the right impression of it. So really you're kind of, as an artist, yeah, you're an illustrator and you work in that field of kind of, yeah, these kind of caricatures and cartoons that have some kind of social sort of commentary. And then and you also work with kind of young people as well in workshop groups as well. So is that right? Is that the sort of, you have the sort
yes.
of two bits? So yeah, so you have these two bits, and this project's allowed you to sort of like bring these kind of two things, the illustration work together and the kind of the way of engaging or kind of creating a conversation through your work with people. So the two kind of channels that the invitation went out on were the Instagram account for the UBI Lab network, like the general one. Is that right? It was kind of like almost like a takeover of their Instagram account.
Sorry, do you ask where the invitation was? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was on the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Right.
And I also shared it personally on my WhatsApp.
Right.
With people that I know. And I also share it as a direct message for everyone who's following on Instagram, because I think with the algorithm, sometimes you miss the posts. So I guess maybe if we send direct messages, it's something will be on people inbox.
That's great. And it was all, but yeah, in this sort of time, and then there was quite a lot of kind of responses from school children or kind of like in younger people as well. So those kind of sheets, were they given physically to kind of, was it for a school or kind of like as a kit for people to do at home?
Yeah, so because we did not have like an age group or certain targets, it was for everyone.
Yeah.
I was trying to balance between the like PDF where you have lots of information and you have like simple just one post on Instagram, then you have the sheet, which is, by the way, is still on my website. Anyone can download it and work on it. I was imagining that this might work for the classrooms, but to contact schools during pandemic, it was so difficult. My previous experience with the schools, I guess the quickest response I got was during like 6 months, because when things go inside classroom, you need to be, very careful, and it go through many revision, and I guess it's very tricky to work with the children. You need so many opinions, and this is a social or issue. So unfortunately, I did not. And yeah, we have the pandemic, and most of the schools were having a lot of restrictions. And I guess they were so busy. And as a mom, I can feel it. I can feel this when I was trying to contact teachers or the schools directly. Well, at the end, unfortunately, we did not get the chance to work with any school. But I'm still hoping that with the sheet still available online, that maybe after the pandemic there will be a chance for teachers or even adults or family to give it a try.
Yeah, it's great. I really loved that element of it, that you could definitely see it working in the classroom and being used, adopted by teachers. Part of me, God knows what the kind of lessons they would fit into now are. That I think you know they do citizenship, don't they? Kind of like at quite a young level now, so it's kind of waving that in. But equally, you know, there's kind of just finding it in, well, when they reopen, but you know, restaurants and kind of like a little activity, because it looks like a sort of quite a cute kind of colouring in exercise, but the question is, you know, potentially really profound, and the answers from young people and kids, I think, are often kind of more interesting than what adults are kind of saying. The two elements there about, oh well, I would, you know, I would buy this computer game and then for people. A really beautiful kind of, yeah, insight into kind of, well, and you know, just again, I guess if we're talking about broadening and deepening the conversation about universal basic income, yeah, opening up to those different perspectives is really important. And I think what Luke kind of and Timothea were bringing up about theirs, and humanizing basic income and really allowing people to kind of try and understand it from their own perspective, and asking that question, yeah, how would it affect you? I think you've really shown a very kind of innovative and kind of accessible, intriguing way of doing that. So I think it's been a lovely tool to share with us, and it would be great if yeah, you could we'll sort of share the link for the materials to get as well. So just kind of going through the chat,
sure.
we've got a couple of well, I'll talk on Renate's behalf, but yeah, obviously some big thumbs up and saying how nice it is. Alison, who's had to leave us, really like the perspectives that the project was bringing in. And has left a link for some work that she does as well, and Janie's had to pop off as well, but maybe we could sort of hopefully bring them back in for the next session. I don't know if there's any other kind of questions specifically relating to sort of Sara or Timothea and Luke's presentations, or comments that we wanted to sort of bring in. Not at the time being.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Sara, just because I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you've probably answered this already in some ways, but I was just thinking about how the project would work differently, you know, without the pandemic in some ways, because I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to work with you, is because you had done, especially through Instagram, these kind of participatory projects where it's that kind of, you know, you sort of send out an image and then people add their own bits to it, and it kind of like snowball kind of effect like that. And I think, because I mean, with I can't remember the name of the other project which you showed right at the start, the Progress project, is it right? With the but with that, because there was a kind of you know, you'd start and then other people would take those images and then develop them further on from there. I'm not really sure. This is again that really annoying white bloke asking I put more of a comment than a question. But I mean, how do you think the project would work differently if you were able to do it without the pandemic? Would you want to do more sort of face-to-face kind of activities with people, or do you think it works just as on its own online?
I think there is it can be both. I mean, it was like planned during the pandemic, so we were thinking directly that there is no face-to-face connection or anything. It's just, you know, it's just online. But I mean, it can still maybe be face-to-face if you, I don't know, even in classrooms, if it's always different when you go for the, even for adults, not just for children, when you actually go and print this sheet and give it to them and just see how would they react. They will directly ask, can we do this? Can we answer this? Is that okay? Is that not? So I guess there is still a lot of possibility to work on this face-to-face, or even in an exhibition. I remember that when we were discussing the project, I felt that this can be also an exhibition where people can enter and take their shoes or socks and just do something with their feet. And we're just using the feet as a theme and as kind of push for people to think about the question. So yeah, it can be an answer that you share it just simply on social media, or it can be more like in a discussion and or classroom where you meet the children face to face and just talk. Yeah. Did I answer your
No, I mean, yeah, that's
question?
exactly what I was trying to get at, I guess, was the fact that, yeah, the most interesting answers generally come through that dialogue or the conversation about, yeah, what do you mean by this, or can I do this? And yeah, so I think that's the thing with the social media thing. I think it works really well, but you can do it without being able to meet face to face. But I think it's quite difficult sometimes for people to come up with answers if they can't ask you a load of questions already and then generate those. Yeah, just a group of people always generate much more interesting responses. And I think especially with the if you've got some children in the room too, I think that's where like it really sort of like sparks up, and that, you know, they come up with all the ideas which the adults wouldn't think are genuine answers or whatever. I thought that was really sweet. That sort of like, yeah, I would give all the money to poor people, and it's just like, oh, hopefully basic income would mean that poor people don't need the money. But it's yeah, I think that's what's so great about it, that you can, yeah, anyway, I'll stop talking now, but yeah, I think you definitely answered the question.
Yeah, it's very funny because these answers I did not receive it from their mom. I take the permission from the mom, but the person who printed the sheet and shared the exercise was their auntie, and they were begging me, and they say, please don't show our mom those answers. And I can feel that they are arguing because they record also a voice, and everyone's was saying about the other person that he's just trying to show off. He's not going to give the money to Birdie, he's just going to take it for himself. So, you know, all of these conversations will be great to see it and feel it alive.
But I think what's really nice about the project is just using that kind of, you know, creating the framework or the invitation to open that conversation up. And then kind of, I think we mentioned it last time as well, the idea of having the UBI Lab Arts is that, yeah, we're then also connected into the wider lab, and those kind of more dry scientific kind of research questions are getting asked over there, but we can approach it in a slightly different way, and kind of hopefully, you know, there's some sort of flow between those two things. But yeah, I mean, I agree, there's kind of, but I think even in itself, just sort of, yeah, asking a different question. And I think what you mentioned earlier on, using the platform of Instagram, which is kind of normally used in this way, and comments and likes are done in this way, and just kind of asking people to rethink it slightly differently is also really interesting kind of approach and an intervention as an artist, because it's kind of like, well, you know, yeah, can you turn basic income into a TikTok challenge? You know, can you sort of, it's like these kind of other hijacking of kind of things that people are doing at the moment, just to bring that question in of, yeah, you know, getting people to think about a post-work society, or a kind of like a, you know, a different way of life and a different way of supporting each other. I think on those platforms is a really important intervention. So thank you very much for sharing it, Sarah, and thanks for the questions as well from people. I mean, I really like the fact that even just sort of 2 presentations at this one, we've got, you know, like an example of something that has been done quite recently, and kind of like is opening up lots of ideas for methods. An invitation, a really generous invitation from the Universal for the UBI Lab Scotland as well. So it's kind of, you know, it's nice to see these things joining up and the connections being made. And I would kind of say for our next session, I mean, I'll put the next kind of, well, I can read out the next date. So I was thinking about another sort of 4 throughout the year. So the next one would be in May. I think we've got Noemi, who would like to sort of present a sort of a more theatre-based, performance-based project, and that she did asking question about UBI then. But anyone who's sort of watching or involved in the conversation that would like to share something, it doesn't have to be your own project. I think, you know, we've had an opportunity here, we've kind of had something that someone's done, but also it could just be, oh, I came across this and thought it could be interesting to repurpose this to kind of use it, or, you know, it's just really to be sharing methods, and I think that it's the form of presentation can be very can range from, you know, something quite short to a very well thought out presentation like Sara offered as well. So the next one would be May, and then we'd be looking at having another one in the middle of August, another one in the middle of November. So there's plenty of time to sort of look forward, and kind of, if you're interested in registering, then I think Toby has put the email address in the chat there, so that's ubilabarts@gmail.com if you want to kind of get in touch and put yourself forward. We'll put this recording on the Facebook page, and possibly I don't know if we've got a YouTube channel yet, but we'll just kind of archive it so people can access it afterwards, and we can hopefully start to create a bit of a repository or an archive of all these different sort of creative methods for opening up the conversation about UBI. But unless there's any kind of final comments or questions from anyone else, is there any updates that need to be given about UBI Lab Arts more generally, Toby?
There's nothing really super pressing. Have I turned my mic on? Yeah. The only thing which I've noticed recently is that there's been quite a lot of UBI Lab or UBI stuff happening in Wales recently, and Plaid Cymru have put out a thing saying that they want to start a basic income trial or some kind of scheme for artists specifically. So if it would be for 1,000 freelance artists to do stuff in their communities. At the moment, this Twitter post is the only kind of concrete thing I can find out about that, but I can share it on our Twitter and all that kind of stuff, or on the mailing list later on when I find out more. But again, I mean, my gut reaction to this is like, oh, we know it should be basic income for everyone, not specifically artists. But I think definitely during the pandemic, this is probably quite a useful way of trialing it potentially. And then the only other thing is that the mayoral elections are coming up in May. With a lot of the other elections, and the UBI Lab are sort of trying to get all candidates standing for mayor and working towards getting MPs and councillors as well to sort of sign a pledge, sort of committing to sort of supporting UBI. At the moment, we've got quite a lot of Green Party and Lib Dems who have recently made basic income one of their policies. But yeah, the Labour, there is more support than the Labour Party might like to say that there is for basic income. But yeah, we're still yet to get any Conservatives to pledge any kind of support, which is the big. As soon as we get some of them, that'll be good. But yeah, those are sort of the main two things at the moment.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much for hosting it, Toby, on the Newcastle Zoom as well, and allowing us to use the space. Thanks very much to everyone who's joined and participated. Big thank you to Sara, Timothea and Luke for presenting as well, and sharing ideas. It was really wonderful to hear those. And I hope we get to catch up for the next session in May. And if there's anything in between, I'm sure Toby will send something out on the group email as well. But yeah, thank you very much, and have a good rest of your evening.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks a lot.